So a week ago, there was an all-candidates forum in Winnipeg, and it was hosted by a left-wing activist named Dan Lett. I have no idea why a conservative candidate would attend such a rigged game. I think candidates should attend debates and forums, but the moderator should be moderate, not a cheerleader, a referee, not a player. It was a setup. After the debate, this moderator wrote a column in the Winnipeg Free Press attacking the conservative candidate Joyce Bateman. No surprise there, but in his article he claimed that she had read out an enemies list. It was worse than that though. See, Bateman is a Canadian running in a Canadian election for the Canadian Parliament, but Lett wrote that she rolled out an enemies of Israel list. It wasn't just McCarthy-esque. It wasn't just a hate list, a list of enemies of the Canadian government. It was an act of disloyalty. Bateman wasn't just a McCarthyist, she was a McCarthyist for a foreign regime, for Israel. She was a bully, but not even a bully for herself or a bully for Canada. She was a bully for a foreign power. She had dual loyalty. And you know it was true because Lett put the phrase enemies of Israel in quotation marks. I mean, you know what that means in a newspaper. When you say someone said something and you put the words in quotes, it means you're quoting them word for word, exactly what they said. It would be quite something if a Tory candidate actually read out a list of enemies, let alone a list of, quote, enemies of Israel. But the Winnipeg Free Press said it. It was written by the very moderator who was there that night. Well, cue the Harper derangement syndrome. This was proof of bullying, of blacklist, maybe even of spying on Canadians. Here's the Huffington Post. They put the word enemies in their headline, in quotes. Imagine that, calling a Canadian general an enemy. And the very first sentence, Conservative incumbents sparked boos at a debate this week after reading out a list of Liberal candidates and volunteers she identified as, quote, enemies of Israel. Well, she said it. She identified them that way. She should own this outrage, right? It was pounced on by the Liberal war room. Here's a tweet by Trudeau's ghostwriter, Jonathan Kay, who is also the editor of the obscure magazine The Walrus. He wrote, jaw-dropping disgusting. Tory MP reads out McCarthyist list of Canadian enemies of Israel, including retired Canadian general. Well, she did read it out loud. She should own it. She did say enemies. It's in quotes. Here's Scott Gilmore of Maclean's magazine saying the same thing, also putting the word in quotes. I mean, look, she said it, right? Here's Bruce Anderson. He owns the website nationalnewswatch.com. I like the website, by the way, but he's a Liberal pundit and his daughter just happens to work as Justin Trudeau's spokesman. He uses the word enemies in quotation marks too. This story went around the world, but I thought something was a bit fishy. See, I read Lett's column in the Winnipeg Free Press. It didn't have a lot of words in quotes, just the words enemies of Israel. I mean, did he take notes or record it? Was there any other context? It just seemed a bit fishy that out of an entire debate, the only part that was in quotation marks were those three words. So I started hunting for videotape of the event, and actually it wasn't hard after all. This was a prominent debate. Other media were there too, so I found videotape pretty quickly. Here's the CBC's footage of the moment where Bateman said the phrase, enemies of Israel. Now I'm going to let the video run for a minute or so you can see the whole relevant part. Here, take a look.
This riding is one many are watching closely. It was held by the Liberals for more than 2 decades until Conservative candidate Joyce Bateman won the seat in 2011. Tonight, candidates answered 5 questions. During the section on the economy, Bateman drew boos from the crowd when she attacked some Liberal candidates.
To share a few of the people who are going to be part of Mr. Carr's team. Omar Al-Gabra, his colleague Liberal candidate, who called Israel's efforts to defend itself from Hamas rockets in 2014 blind and cruel.
We don't build ourselves up by calling other people down.
Did she say the words enemies or enemies of Israel? No, she didn't. Did she say enemies list? No. Did she list the people in the Liberal Party who have said hostile things about Israel? Yes, she did. So it's actually not her list of enemies. It's not a list of people she hates. It's a list of haters, list of other people who hate Israel. She didn't call them that, by the way. She just described what their anti-Israel record is. But that's not even the point here. The point is that Dan Lett quoted her. He put her comments in quotation marks. That's how journalists indicate she said this. Enemies of Israel. The Winnipeg Free Press website still says that. Huffington Post still says that. Maclean still says that. Dan Lett told a lie. You heard the tape. The Winnipeg Free Press published the lie. That lie has been retold without any due diligence or fact-checking by every Harper derangement syndrome journalist in the country. One or two had the ethics to correct it after the fact. The Wall Street Journal's man in Canada deleted his tweet repeating the Winnipeg Free Press's lie. Good for him, but Bruce Anderson, even after he saw the videotape, he doubled down. Of course he did. He's got a big stake in beating Harper. So he actually wrote, after he knew it was false, he wrote, quote, maybe Joyce Bateman can take 10 minutes and say what point she was trying to make, if not enemies of Israel. The video suggests that. Does the video suggest that? You'll notice he's still putting the phrase in quotes, but she never said it, but it's just too good for him to stop using it. He won't correct himself. He won't retract. It's Joyce Bateman who needs to take 10 minutes to re-say what she said in 30 seconds. The onus is on her. She already said what she said. It's on tape. Anderson could claim he didn't know any better until he saw. What's his excuse now? The same as the rest of them, I guess. Maclean's Magazine, The Walrus, the Huffington Post, the Winnipeg Free Press. They're an anti-Harper political party. I call them the media party. Unfortunately, you can't vote against any of them on a ballot. For TheRebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant. Ow! We're building a studio. Help us out. Click here or visit buildthedream.ca.